Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special episode of Algae Corner with me, Dr. West Bishop. Now, what we're going to be looking at today is understanding why you need to manage golf course irrigation waters. Specifically, we're going to look at what may be lurking in those ponds or lakes or irrigation systems that could overall negatively impact the turf health or just decrease that experience your patrons may have when they go out to play around. So there's many reasons why it's important to manage golf course irrigation waters. We're going to put them in three broad categories today that we're going to go more in depth into. That first category is aesthetics. Next is functionality, and last is overall water quality. So let's start with aesthetics. I mean, let's be honest, people like to see a nice looking pond. You spend a lot of time on the turf grass, making sure that's nice and groomed and looking great. People like to see that with the water ponds, the water features, water hazards as well. So nice, clean, pristine, clear blue ponds. But unfortunately, if you get too many weeds or algae in there, it can make them look really unsightly, really murky, or you get scums or mats in there, and just overall decrease that appearance of those systems. But aesthetics is more than just that appearance. Aesthetics can go into the smells as well. So if you go, anaerobic or anoxic down in the bottom, it can cause release of gases like hydrogen sulfide gas, make it smell like a swamp or a bog out there. Some of these algae can actually produce taste and odor compounds. These have been described as vile or pig pen as well. You don't want people going, oh man, that pond smells like a pig pen. So, aesthetics, both, visual and smells. Additionally, if you have a tangled mess of weeds around the outside of the pond, people can't get up there get their balls. That could harbor snakes or alligators too and be a danger to those people trying to get in there. And lastly, with the aesthetic aspect, is these ponds can harbor biting insects like mosquitoes or flies. So if you have too many stagnant or dead zones or too much organic matter built up in there, you can have these biting insects emerging, attacking your patrons as well. So aesthetics, very important aspect of managing golf course irrigation waters, but a lot of dimensions to that aesthetics category. All right, the next category we want to talk about is functionality. So the functionality of these irrigation systems. Now, if you have too many weeds or algae in these systems, it can clog the pipes, the intakes, the screens that bring in the water, so it can decrease that flow or the ability to move water and irrigate through the system. Additionally, it can decrease the storage volume of water in that pond or irrigation system. Additionally, if you actually get the algae in those irrigation pipes, it can build up. It can clog those pipes, it can clog the sprinkler heads, making for a very tedious job to clean all of those out. So the functionality aspect of being able to move that water, being able to supply nice, clean irrigation water to the turf is very important. Next up, when it comes to functionality, is actual drainage. So drainage away from these golf courses, away from the greens, down these canals, ditches, and laterals. You need to be able to allow that water to flow off the course. And if you have too many weeds or algae in those systems, it can really back it up and cause flooding and a lot of turf diseases by not allowing the water to flow off. And additionally, when it comes to the functionality aspect, if you have too much algae in the irrigation water itself, it can build up in those turf layers. So too much algae, essentially organic matter in those turf layers, can go down there, can cause anoxia and cause what's called black layer. And this can release sulfides, interact with different metals and minerals, and just overall cause stunting, discoloration, yellowing of turf grass with that buildup of that organic matter layer from algae in the irrigation water. So the functionality aspect of managing these golf course irrigation water is very important as well. All right, the last category we want to talk about today is overall water quality. Now, there's a lot of different aspects of water quality that we can talk about, and we're going to cover a few of those today, but first is actually algae in the irrigation water. So this can be a source of algae to get on the turf and cause turf algae, and that can really harm and discolor the turf grass. Additionally, if you have too much algae in the irrigation water, it can cause your sand bunkers to actually turn green, look like green sand. So just directly that avenue, that vector for the algae to cause turf grass and bunkers to add algae to it. Next, some of these algae, cyanobacteria in particular, can produce toxins, and these can have an allelopathic impact on the irrigated turf grass. And this overall can cause yellowing, decreased root growth, and decreased photosynthetic activity of the turf grass if you have these toxins in the irrigation water from these algae. Those toxins can also impact wildlife. You don't want people seeing sick birds or sick fish out there being exposed to these cyanobacteria toxins. And additionally, they can impact the patrons on the golf course. So people that even breathing in the air coming from some of these toxic algae blooms can feel nauseous, can have dizziness, and just overall not feel good after walking by that pond system. Some of these toxins can cause skin rashes too, so if they happen to reach in to go after their golf ball and they get some of those toxic algae on them, cause skin rashes. So a lot of different aspects there when it comes to that water quality or the algae growing in your ponds that you need to manage. Some additional things when it comes to water quality are actually being vectors for turf diseases. So these waters can have oomycetes or oospores in there of different fungal pathogens or Pythium or Phytophthora that can infect the turf grass. So you don't want to be spraying these spores and spreading turf diseases from using this irrigation water. All right, another component of water quality that we need to talk about is increase in bicarbonates. So as algae photosynthesize, they use up all this free CO2, shifting to more bicarbonates in the system. Now these directly can negatively impact the turf grass by causing a decreased shoot and root growth. They can also reduce uptake of nutrients by the turf grass, specifically phosphorus and a lot of your micronutrients. And it makes it more difficult to manage the sodium absorption ratio. So as you have more bicarbonates in the system, it can bind those beneficial divalent cations, the calcium and magnesium, and get that SAR out of whack. Additionally, it decreases that filtration capacity of the water to go through the soils, and it retains more sodium in the soil layers, causing it to negatively impact the turf grass. Now, in addition to the bicarbonates, that photosynthetic process also increases pH. So that higher pH, especially if you get over 9 in that irrigation water, can negatively impact nutrient uptake by the turf grass itself, and additionally just cause you to get less impact out of your fungicide programs and herbicide programs and overall fertilizer programs, making it much more difficult and expensive to manage those turf grasses. So that water quality component, very multidimensional, very complex, but very important to manage water quality that you're irrigating with to promote turf health. In summary, today we covered 3 main areas on why it's important to manage golf course irrigation waters. First was aesthetics, next was functionality, and third was overall water quality. So you want your ponds and irrigation systems looking and smelling good, you want them free flowing, be able to supply that water to the turf grass, and you want them to be of good quality. You want to be spraying this beneficial, healthy, good quality water over those precious greens and precious turf grass. So thank you for tuning in to this very special episode of Algae Corner in the Field, and look forward to seeing you next time. Be sure to catch our follow-up episode on approaches to managing golf course irrigation water.